So we've got our first two blocks set here, and a couple things to keep in mind. This string line we have here is strictly to represent the face of the block. It's not a level line for us or anything. When you do this, you want to have this string line. This is for a straight line. Make sure we get a good straight wall. You want to set this either to the back of the block or on the face. If you do not want to use the split face portion, because when they break these apart to create these SRWs, these segmental retaining wall block, they split differently each time. So you want to go off a mechanical line that is never going to differ no matter how the block splits. So we're setting this in. I'm getting my first two. I'm just setting a level on here real quick just to make sure we're looking good and things are solid. If you need to maybe just tap them a little bit, get a dead blow hammer. It's got either sand or BBs in it. And what that dead blow does is it transfers that inertia, that load, directly into whatever you're hitting, as opposed to like a steel or an iron hammer, which can tend to bounce and not give you that good, as in they say, dead blow. So a dead blow hammer is really handy for just setting these things. Like this one's just a fuzz high. I'm just going to tap it just a little bit. But overall, you want to use about a 4-foot level to check these things as you go along. But that's a great thing about this screed bed here, this 1-inch setting bed, or less actually, depending you know, how you lay it into your base. That little bit of material there is just to get you a good level pad to sit on. So this thing will blaze right along here. When you're setting these block in, again, having it as close as possible is really important. You want to reduce the movement of that heavy block as much as possible. When it comes time to actually set this block, you want to have the right tools for the job. So whatever mechanical lifters that the manufacturer has for their specific type of retaining wall block, you want those. They're going to make it easier on your guys, it's going to reduce the wear on their fingers and hands, and it's just going to overall make a better job go faster. So that's the name of the game in these things, is speed and efficiency, but tempered with safety, of course. So these things have, these Unilock PisaXL units have a special clamp that you can use to pick them up, so it just acts like a handle on top and it's easier to set, especially this base course. Versalock has their handlers. All the manufacturers have their certain type of handlers for their specific block. We've got a big block clamp we're going to show you here in a little bit once we get get our base course down, and we're going to show you how that thing can make it easier for you to set block, again, almost entirely mechanically. This part of the job is one of the most time-consuming portions, is getting your initial base course in. Be sure to plan for the adequate amount of time for this base course and making sure everything's perfect and level. How these base courses get set is going to dictate how this entire wall gets built up. If it's off by, let's say, a 1/16 of an inch, or even let's get crazy, an 1/8 of an inch, it's only going to take 8 blocks to get this thing out of whack by 1 inch. So that stuff adds up quickly, so make sure these initial courses are still perfectly level. So we've got our base course laid in here. Everything's looking really sharp. We've got a 6-foot level on it here, which you want to use a large level to get the big picture of the whole layout, to make sure things in general are looking good. It's dead level. We're checking it front to back. It's good, dead level. I'm really excited about that. We're ready to start building the wall. This is the real fun part now, is actually really accomplishing some visual progress. So this is a real fun part of the wall. What we're gonna do is, after checking everything for level, you need to take a broom or a power leaf blower or whatever and broom off, clean off the top of these things, because you don't want any grit or chunks of aggregate or anything sitting on top of these that could throw off your next course. We're gonna also backfill, because it's important to backfill as you build these things up. The NCMA, National Concrete Masonry Association's specifications and rules say to backfill every single course as you come up. Sometimes you can push that by going up a course or two. I wouldn't stray ever from specs. That's just you know, the safe way to be. So as we've laid these out, we've been following our string line across this control line across the front, not the split face, because that varies, remember, but this actual control line here that's a manufactured part of the block. The other thing you can do is take a long straight edge and lay it across the back of your block. Make sure everything is in good working order, good straight, and we're looking pretty good here. Could maybe stand an adjustment or two here and there, but otherwise, to the eye it looks good, and to the string line it looks good. I think we're good with the block and ready to go up. All right, so now that we're gonna start backfilling, two things. We're gonna take this extra geofabric and lay it over top of this open graded stone here and a little bit up the face. That's gonna act as a separator from when we put dirt on top of this area here, to keep the vertical infiltration straight down into our open graded base. Now the fabric on the back side is going to vary by the region, by the specifier, by the engineer. And so in general, in our project, since we have 18 inches of clean fill, and generally stable soils, we don't worry about running a non-woven geotextile separator fabric on the vertical portions of these projects. Now there's going to be specifications that do call for that, and it's going to be up to you to figure out in your areas what's going to be best applied to you. If you're using a minimum of that 12-inch drain zone, like I said, we shoot for 18 and we've got that here, all that free drain zone is going to be better for you. So the thinking is with that, some of that non-woven geotextile separator fabric is that it will clog up sooner than all this void space of these open graded stone for our drainage aggregate. So in most cases, we stray away from using a separator fabric on this backside because there's not enough water coming through the project that we feel it's going to infiltrate. So depending on the area you're in, you're going to see different specs for what type of fabric, if any, you're going to use on this vertical portion of the backfill. In general, we do not use a separator fabric on this vertical portion. We feel that that separator fabric may clog up with fines before this open graded stone will. So now if you have a situation where you have like a seawall and water comes in and washes out, I would probably put some kind of geoseparator fabric to prevent the migration of fines into your drainage area. With the way we're going to design this and the lack of water that's going to be coming through here, we don't worry about that so much. So in general, on this project, we're not going to use a geoseparator fabric. We are, however, going to backfill it entirely with clean stone, clear up to about within 8 inches of our finish, and then we'll talk about that when we get there. The front of our block is now backfilled, and it'll be a process as we go along till we get it up to grade. You can see this is our embedded course with you know, what's in front of the wall. So we're looking real good here. We've got lots of embedment like we planned, a full 6 inches. And actually we knew about 10 inches down here if you remember earlier. So that part down there will have its full 6 inches of embedment. We'll be about 10 inches down here. That's okay. When we're backfilling with our clean stone, we want to make sure that we're filling all these voids here. These voids back here don't need filled in this type of product. There are open core block that do need filled, and you could add fill to them, I suppose, to add a little more mass. But other than that, we want to make sure we get 3/4 clear up into these between each different block, no matter what the system really. And we're looking real good, real happy with it. The next thing is we're gonna just lightly consolidate or tamp, even with the hand tamp, just tamp this in here just to get that last little bit of consolidation of this open graded stone, and we're ready to add another course. So we've got our second course laid on here. We've got our soil in front backfilled. We've got our backfill of clean drain stone behind it. Everything's looking great. So our soil we put in, and we want to compact it in lifts and make sure that's packed in properly. Now that we got a couple layers of block on here for our second course, we want to make sure these are mechanical connection points that we need to make sure are fully engaged. All right, so on our corner construction, a few things that are very important. Interlock in this system, especially in a corner, is of the utmost importance. If you were to have just one solid seam of block up here where this wall goes back, you would stand a chance and the likelihood of it separating as the pressures vary with the backfill pushing on this wall this way and a backfill pushing on this wall that way. So this corner interlock is very important. So we want to make sure that our corner block are always interwoven or interlocked. So you can see here where our joint lines are. This block is putting pressure on this corner, and the next piece is going to be putting pressure like this. So it's just going to kind of be a repeating pattern. And so on these corners where we use these half units, so we've got a split face on both sides. As you can see here, we've got this split face texture on both sides. It gives a nice appearance to the wall, and you're not just left with like a blank form or mold corner like that. So this gives a nice finish appearance to a corner on a project. On this project, we're using an SEK Surebond glue. This is SB10. It's just a good all-use block and paver glue. We'll also use an SB15, which is a rapid set glue. We really like that stuff. We'll show that in a little bit. But the biggest thing is we also like using these big guns because as opposed to like the small 12-ounce tubes, this is a 28-ounce tube. There's less changing out. The only thing is you may waste a little more if it's not a larger project where you're going to go through multiple tubes. But we do like these 28-ounce tubes with the 28-ounce gun. When you're gluing these corners, you generally need to glue these corners in, or it's just a good best practice to follow. But you want to take and run just about 2/4 inch size beads all along through here. We're going to squeeze it on out, and you'll see it as it comes around here. And you also want to lay it out if there's a chance for it to puddle up any water underneath it. You might want to give it a place to break up like that, where water, if it gets in there, may run out. But otherwise, we're just a little dab of glue there. We're going to take pressure off the gun so it doesn't run out too much. We're going to set our block in here. and we're gonna set it down. We're gonna scoot it back just to kind of engage that glue a little bit more. We're gonna get it squared up to our corner. We'll just maybe do a quick little check across the back here. Make sure we're good and straight. Make sure we're in good alignment. And that looks real good. Sometimes too, I'll even take a good dead blow hammer like this 4-pound here. I'm gonna tap it a couple times here just to give it a good, good engagement of that glue, and it's good to go. So maintaining your bond lines is really important, and each product is gonna have a different spec of how much tolerance each bond line is gonna have to sit on its course above and below. The general rule of thumb is each bond should sit roughly from 1/3 in of each block, but you don't wanna be much outside of this. So this bond line should not come up here. This is the absolute minimum that it needs to sit right here in this product. Now you can custom cut block to where it's a half offset, to where this line comes right up the middle, but it requires, or is going to require, more cutting and stuff like that. But just be sure to check out NCMA standards on that, and as well as each block's manufactured recommendations for their offset and bond lines. But these lines can never meet up vertically. This line can never meet up with this line. That is an absolute no-no. So we always want these bond lines offset. So what we had to do to keep that bond line maintained and make sure this block ended up where we wanted it, we had to shave down this piece just a little bit here, shave that sliver out of it, just to make sure that we maintained our good corner for our setback and maintain our bond lines all the way through it. So each wall product is going to have its own little nuances of how it gets built, how you measure, and how you check on it. This Unilock PisaXL unit has this ledge on top, so it makes it to where you can't just set a standard level on top of here. Now, a couple things you could do, you could take, I guess, something of like this here. You could do, you got to make sure it's something uniform thickness. This is just for example's sake, but you could do this to get over that ledge possibly, and that's reading good, but make sure it's obviously uniform thickness. Each thing is going to throw your project off. What I just did was a quick and dirty little thing here. We took this little sliver, it's got that knockout in it, so we can go over top of it. We're going to set our 2-foot level on it, make sure it's reading, and we're reading great. So this thing, as you go up, you want to go through and do some quality assurance checks to make sure your wall has the proper levelness to it that's required for this thing to sit the way it needs to for the test of time. And also be sure to get a consensus of just the overall readings. It needs to sit and read in each place you measure, it needs to sit level, but check over the whole wall to make sure the consensus is in every spot that it's reading level. One last thing too on this topic, the specs on this particular wall product say that you can stack up to 4 courses high before backfilling. National Concrete Masonry Association specs are every course gets backfilled. That's going to be up to you and how you lay out your wall or how your job specs are written. So never stray from job specs. Always fall back, if nothing else, to the NCMA rules, and you're best off to go that route following the NCMA rules. So our wall's coming up, and we've just been following course after course, backfill, build a course and backfill, keeping our corners alternating, as you can see, following our bond lines and our bond offsets there. Something I want to mention, as you're backfilling, you want to be taking with this open graded stone, this open graded angular stone, you want to be taking a hand tamp, or if the project's big enough, you know, an actual small gas compactor, but it's ideal to go back through here and just consolidate that number 57 limestone as you're coming up, just to make sure those last little pieces are engaged, get that last 5% of compaction or whatever, or truly it's consolidation, not compaction. But just want to make sure you're going through here and getting that stuff tamped in. Another thing, I don't know if we mentioned earlier, in your back cut, you want to make sure that this area is as compacted as possible. You want to avoid having any loose soils back here. Any soil that is slumped or, you know, has shifted or given way behind you. So when it's being dug out, you want to take that loader or the hoe and make sure that's pressed back in there and good and firm. So you know, anything you got like that, it doesn't even hurt. Take your tools and just beat some of that 57 into that hillside just to make sure you got good connection and no chance for this hill to slough off behind you, because that will put tremendous pressure on this wall if there's anything loose behind this wall. So that's a big thing we're a stickler on. This is about the only time a hand tamp works for this kind of stuff, is to engage this last little bit of number 57 limestone. Otherwise, these things are junk and there's no purpose for having them on your job sites or your work trucks. You always want to go with power mechanical compaction units. All right, so you can see here as we're working, we've got our block laid, or our block pallet set as close as possible to our work area, eliminating guys having to carry these 78-pound block from any further away or whatever. So do the best you can to have these logistics of your pallets laid out as close to your work area as possible. It's going to save time, energy, and that's going to translate to your guys being able to be more productive on a job site for longer. Another thing too, as you use your pallets, most suppliers are going to have a deposit on those pallets. So you want to save those, put them in a place you're not going to get torn up, and return those to your dealers to get your money back for them. So machines on this project is really important, and you're going to find out through your company and as you grow and build your company what machines are going to work best for your firm. In this job we brought everything in just to have it, just to show what is possible. A mini excavator is very handy to have for a job like this. We could have gotten by doing this with the Bobcat by cornering into the hillside with the Bobcat bucket, but it's really not a way to get a very exact excavation. That's where that mini excavator comes in very handy. The mini skid steer, that ditch witch, is a very handy tool for, you can move partial pallet to block, but you always got to break down the pallets to where it's smaller amounts of quantity of block that little machine can use. But it's the best way to at least get your foot in the door as far as machines go with that little machine to help you make your jobs more efficient.